بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
I want to go on to another scholar's work, which is Ayatullah Zia'abadi, Marhum Zia'abadi. Now I'm going to refer to his work and look at this in more depth. So can we fathom, when we say that Imams are linked to Allah and Allah's knowledge, can we ever fathom the extent of the knowledge of Allah? Of course we cannot, because it is part of his essence. It is part of him. It's not separable from him. So, everything that we say about Allah is that he is, really not understandable in the fullest sense. We can only understand a little bit, and even that according to what he tells us about himself. So what has he told us about his knowledge? وَإِنْدَهُ مَفَاتِحُ الْغَيْبِ. With him are the treasures of the unseen. لَا يَعْلَمُهَا إِلَّا هُ. No one knows them except for him. وَيَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. He knows whatever there is in the land and the sea. وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا. No leaf falls from any tree except that he knows about it. وَلَا حَبَّةٍ فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْأَرْضِ. Nor is there a grain in the darkness of the earth. وَلَا رَتْبٍ وَلَا يَابِسٍ. Nor anything fresh or wet or dry or withered, except illa fi kitabin mubin. It is in a recorded book. This verse would suggest that no one has access to the hidden knowledge. But however, hold on, we know the Qur'an is full of general rules and then exceptions. So this is a general rule. The general rule is that's his. He has the knowledge, only him, and the extent of his knowledge is very vast. He knows what is in the heavens, in the earth, in the sea. He knows about the leaves on the trees. He knows about the grains in the earth. He knows every wet and dry thing, meaning everything. He knows every single thing. So there's no limit of Allah's knowledge. But yet we say Ahlul Bayt have access to this knowledge. So how do we come to this conclusion? Again, let us look at the Holy Qur'an. Surah Jinn, verses number 26 and 27. Alimul Ghayb. He is the knower of the unseen. فَلَا يُظْهِرُ عَلَى غَيْبِهِ أَحَدًا. He does not disclose his unseen to anyone. Next verse. إِلَّا مَنِ ارْتَضَى. Except to those he approves of, min rasulin, from the prophets. So you have a general rule that yes, hidden knowledge generally, people don't have access to it. Many people, if you ask them, we don't have access to the hidden knowledge of Allah. However, there are some exceptions. Illa man irtada. There are some people that he approves of and they get access. They are given special kind of access. Similarly, in Surah Ali Imran 179, Allah says, وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُطْلِعَكُمْ عَلَى الْغَيْبِ. Allah will not acquaint you with the unseen. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَجْتَبَى مِنْ رُسُلِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. But Allah chooses from his apostles whomever he wishes to give access to the unseen. So we do have a general rule. However, we also have exceptions. This is the way the Quran does it. It gives us general things and then it provides us with exceptions. Intercession is one of these things as well. You'll see some verses, they'll say no one intercedes. But then you'll see other verses which say except whom Allah gives permission. So Ahlul Bayt, the Imams alayhimus salam, are in this group of exceptional people given access to the hidden knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowledge of the unseen, Ilmul Ghayb. They are in this group which is given the exception. So if that's the case, that they are given access to Allah's knowledge, then what is the difference between knowledge of Allah and knowledge of Ahlul Bayt, for example? Are we saying that they're one and the same? Are we saying that they're at the same level? Are we saying that Allah's knowledge is equal to Ahlul Bayt's knowledge? Let's discuss this a bit further. So the first point to make is the knowledge of Allah is part of his being. It cannot be separated from Allah. You cannot think of God without knowledge. If that's the case, then he's not God. He has to have knowledge because that is part of his essential being. That is part of his essence. You cannot separate the ilm of Allah and Allah. However, can you think of human beings without knowledge? Of course you can. It's not part of their essential nature. They can still be human beings, still be beings without knowledge. So for Allah, it's essential. It's absolutely necessary that he has this knowledge. But for others, it is not. Number two, Imams, the thing with their knowledge is that they can choose to know and when not to know. Allah is not like that. Allah knows everything all the time, at all times. But Imams, as we'll see in a minute, they can choose to know or not to know certain things. Now, what does this mean? It means that, for example, if you take our example, we may want to know something. I may want to know what is happening in Karachi at the moment, what is happening in Toronto, what is happening in New York, what is happening in Mashhad at the moment. I have no idea, right? I have no idea independently. I cannot absolutely access those places and know what's happening. I want to know what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month. I have no idea. I cannot see into the future, right? So this is our limitation. We can only see those things that we have access to and that we can learn or we can observe and these things. However, the Imams have unlimited, unrestricted access to these things. So then why don't they know everything? Why sometimes you'll see in a hadith, they'll ask a person, who are you? What is your name? Where are you from? Do you know this person? How is this person? Why are they asking these questions? Because they choose not to know these things. A question comes, why would they choose not to know? Why do they just choose to know everything? Here we have two responses. Number one, they have to lead normal lives in that sense. They have to operate in this world as normal people. They have to a certain extent, be like us, as normal as us at certain times. So then when does it kick in and when does it not kick in? What makes them all of a sudden know something and not know something? This is the beautiful point. Because their knowledge is linked to the irada of Allah, the will of Allah. When He wants them to know something in His path, in His mission, in His way, they will know it. So their knowledge and their knowing and not knowing is all linked to the will of God. When it's in the will of Allah for them to know, they come to know. When it's not in the will of Allah, they will not know. They are completely in sync with the will of Allah. وَمَا يَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. They do not desire anything except that Allah desires it, right? So the example that is given by Ayatullah Zia'abadi is like, he says, it's like they are sitting next to a curtain. This curtain separates the hidden and the known, the seen and the unseen, and they're sitting by this curtain. They're operating in the known world, the seen world. Whenever they wish, whenever it's in the irada of Allah, they can easily just move the curtain, use the access, and go into the unseen world and look at the knowledge from there and gain that knowledge. Why? Because, as I said, they led normal lives, they interacted with people as normal as possible. But when the Imam needs to do something special, for example, to defend himself, to prove himself, to shed some light on some matter which is very important, then they use their knowledge and they use their position and they declare it. The same can be said for their strength. Do they have strength? They have miraculous strength. But do they always use it? Do they, for example, walk around on air? Do they float around? Do they fly around? Do they, for example, appear in 1 second in Medina and the next second in Makkah? Why did they have to walk to Makkah, ride to Makkah, go to Makkah? They could have just transported there in some miraculous way. The Holy Prophet, he uses his miracle to, for example, split the moon, but then he has to pick up a sword and fight in the battle. Why not just split the battle and, open up the earth and let it swallow everybody? No. There are some things they are allowed to do by Allah, some things they are not allowed to do. Sometimes they have to lead what we would call normal lives and use the normal means, and sometimes not. So this is all linked back to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a nice story which illustrates this. The Holy Prophet on one occasion, he was going somewhere, and when they come out and they're ready to get on their animals and travel, they see that the camel of the Holy Prophet is not there. It had somehow run off. So they asked the Holy Prophet, now what do we do? He said, let's go look for it. Now, when he said, let's go look for it, some of the munafiqeen of the time, they started to say, what kind of person is this? On one hand, he claims he's a prophet. He's been sent by God. He knows the Qur'an. He gets revelation. He speaks to angels. On another hand, he doesn't even know where his camel is. What kind of person is he? The Prophet heard that. And then the Prophet said, excuse me, I know where it is. Go to this place behind this mountain in this valley. There's a tree there. You'll find that the reins of my camel have been caught in the branches of this tree. You'll find my camel there. Go there, untie it, and bring it. In other words, generally in their normal interactions, they would choose not to delve into that hidden knowledge of Allah, because they have to lead normal lives. Otherwise, as I said, they could be just living supernatural lives, and that would not be practical for us to follow in that sense. But at times when he has to now defend his position, he has to prove himself, he has to shut the criticisms of the munafiqeen who are now trying to make fun of him or trying to expose him that he's not a prophet. He has to defend himself. So here he reveals his knowledge and he tells them, no, I know where my camel is. It's in this place. Before he chose not to know, but then when he came under scrutiny and when there was a challenge and when there was a chance that others may be misguided, he chose to reveal his knowledge. Second Khalifa Umar once asked Amir al-Mu'mineen that, oh Ali, we ask you so many questions. You answer them straight away. Everything we ask you is like, you just answer straight away. How come we can't do that? How come we're not able to answer like that and you are able to answer like that? Amir al-Mu'mineen asked him, he said, oh Umar, tell me, how many fingers do you have on your hand? Umar said 5. He said, did you have to think about it? Did you have to spend time researching, looking into it, thinking about it? He said, no, obviously, it's right there in front of me, 5, I know this. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, exactly, the way that is in front of you, in front of me is all the other knowledge that you ask about. I can also just simply, it's in front of me, it doesn't take any effort, I can just take that knowledge and I can answer your questions. Allah says in this verse that the Prophet does not know the hypocrites, but we know them. Yeah, in this kind of thing, when it says like, you don't know them, but we know them. Yes, you don't know them independently. You don't know them independently. We will choose, or you will choose, based on your close connection with us, to know them or not know them. There are times when he will choose maybe not to know them. At times he will choose to know them. So this doesn't conflict with Ilmul Ghayb of Rasulullah.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.